All right, let's do it. Let's start with the game where College Game Day will be, Notre Dame and Pittsburgh. And that line has gotten pretty lofty. We checked it as 11.5. Game comes on the 50th anniversary of Tony Dorsett going for 303 against Notre Dame. Although I went back and looked at the game story from that one. Matt Cavanaugh vultured a couple of touchdowns from him from the one there at the end. So, I think 303 and only one touchdown, I think. That's neither here nor there. You've got a great Pittsburgh rush defense against Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, and the Notre Dame offense. What do you think in this game?
Did Bino ever regale you with stories about that game?
Always.
Oh, really?
Always. Bino had a story for just about everything, man. He was the best. If some of the younger listeners, Bino Cook was a legendary figure in Pittsburgh football and then worked at Notre Dame. He was like one of the original guys on College Game Day. And even into my early days in the studio, Bino lived in a hotel in Pittsburgh, and he would pop in, and he would go to a studio close to where he lived, and he would pop in and he would do a segment on College Football Final at the end of the night. And then afterwards, invariably, when I would come back upstairs to my cubicle at the time, and it shows you this is like, 1999, 2000, something like that. The red message light would be on. I would pick it up, and Bino, who Fowler does a really good Bino. I think I'm fairly close, but you'd have this message that sounded like, call me. Call me as soon as you get this. I don't think that was very good. And then we'd call, and then it's 2:00 in the morning already, and then I would sit there at my desk for an hour talking to Bino. But I cherish those times, man. He was an absolute legend. But enough down memory lane. Yeah. What happens in the future with Notre Dame and Pittsburgh?
I think it's a grinded out kind of nasty Steel City day, and Notre Dame has enough push to win. I think this game will be remembered as the matchup of two of the more promising quarterbacks in all of college football. Everyone on the pod knows what I think of Mason Heinschel. CJ Carr has been electric this year. I mean, he could not have transitioned smoother or easier. If you think about all the quarterbacks we expected to make that transition, it didn't. I don't think there'll be a lot of points. I'm not going to bet against Jeremiah Love. So we're going to say the Irish, but just by field goal.
I'm going. Oh, so you're saying Pittsburgh covers?
I do. Yeah.
If it's 11.5, I would tend to agree with you. I don't think it's going to be that close. I think Notre Dame's defense has improved from what we saw early in the season. I think there will be a lot of emotion on Pittsburgh's side. I also think that there is a possibility, not that Notre Dame wouldn't be locked in, given the fact that they have no margin for error, but if they weren't, then Narduzzi probably made sure of it by sort of saying the game doesn't matter. Oh, you think it doesn't matter? Let me show you what matters. I think Notre Dame wins the game because they're the better team. But young quarterback against Narduzzi's defense and the pressure that they can create and the fact that they can stop the run does give me a little bit of pause. This is a dangerous situation if Notre Dame either squanders opportunities or gives up a bunch of negative plays early, whether sacks or turnovers. I would watch early to see how quickly CJ gets settled in between what will be an inspired defense and one that is always creative in getting to the quarterback. I'm going to take Notre Dame to win the game. But I do think it is a real danger spot for the Irish. But it should be great theater. It's at noon on ABC, immediately following College Game Day. Saturday afternoon, we talked a little bit about what's in front of the Trojans. Iowa coming to town off of that heartbreaking loss against Oregon. Weather doubtless will be better in Southern California. Who do you got, Hawkeyes or the Trojans?
So I'm going to take Iowa in the upset race. I think they can go in and on a sunny Southern California day and bully them around. And I think they have shown just enough verve on offense to move the ball. So I am going to go with the bully against USC until proven otherwise.
I agree with you that the offense has proven. The early, I remember watching, I think it was Iowa Rutgers, but I remember watching a game early on a Friday night, and Gronowski had a couple of like wide open guys, and like literally the ball needed to travel no more than 10 yards in the air, and dirt ball, airmail, and you're like, what in the world? He's always been tough and always been a really good runner. He settled in. He made some good throws in horrible conditions on Saturday against Oregon. I think Iowa's a really good team, and I don't think they have enough firepower to beat SC. I think SC at home. I think they'll Mekhi Lemon.
Oh, yeah.
Another. I raved on the pod on Monday about Cam Coleman from Auburn as maybe a receiver that people aren't. I'm sure scouts are, but the people aren't noticing enough. So is Mekhi Lemon. Mm-hmm. He was sensational last week against Northwestern. Really has been all year. I'll go with the Trojans to win that game. Saturday afternoon in Tuscaloosa, there are 2 SEC games of humongous importance. The first one will be at 3:30 Eastern from Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Oklahoma and Alabama, the Sooners and the Crimson Tide haven't played a lot over the years. The only time they've played in Tuscaloosa, Oklahoma won. It was back in the Mike Shula era. The most recent time they played, Oklahoma won, throttling Alabama and basically wrecking their playoff hopes last year by taking them apart in Norman. And now here comes this Oklahoma defense, able to create negative plays. Alabama struggles to run the ball. You can make them one-dimensional. Although when I think of Alabama right now, I think of the quote from Mike Leach, Pete. 50% run and 50% pass. Well, trying to do that's 100% stupid. It's like move the ball any way you can. Mm-hmm. For Alabama, that's moving the ball through the air. Now, can they protect the quarterback? Can they avoid the negative plays? They've been good at that this year. Greg McElroy telling me last night that their negative play percentage, as they define it, is not only better than last year, it's better than their goal for the season, despite the fact that they've had struggles running it. This defense from Oklahoma can really do a lot of damage for you. Who do you like? You like the Tide or the Sooners?
Hasn't Ty Simpson had a bit of a fumbling problem recently?
He has lost 4 fumbles this year,
yeah.
And he's lost one in each of their last 4 games. I don't know if it's I wouldn't know if it's a loose with the ball problem.
Yeah.
It is probably
a protection
I think
problem.
most of them, in talking to people there, most of them have been holding the ball a little bit and letting plays develop. Pretty much the one against LSU is pretty much what's happened. Hit from the backside, late deep in the pocket, that kind of thing. And I don't think he's been loose with the ball, and he hasn't fumbled it. Maybe he has, but I don't remember him fumbling it running with it or anything. He hasn't run a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, he hasn't turned the ball over through the air very often, only once.
Yeah.
But he's fumbled 4 times, which is tied for the most in the nation.
Yes. Yeah, you better be chipping R. Mason Thomas there, because he's a game wrecker, an actual game wrecker. I like the Tide here. I just think they probably don't get enough credit for how low they were after week 1. Just remember the shock and awe coming out of Tallahassee and the ability to build and grow, find an identity. I give Grubb a lot of credit. He's done an excellent job. So I think that they will push on here and handle the Sooners. It is interesting that Mateer's kind of getting healthy now. And he's running more there. Yeah, I think they were a little hesitant to run in because you don't want to expose the hand, right? The hand's a hard thing to protect. So, I think it'll be kind of a wild, fun game, probably a little higher scoring, but I like the Tide.
You really see. I think the opposite. I think it's going to be relatively low scoring. McElroy, I thought McElroy might have been a little aggressive. He thinks it might be 1st to 20. He's hoping for more because he's calling the game.
Sure.
But I will say, these are 2 of the top 15 scoring defenses in the country. Oklahoma's only giving up 14 points per game. Alabama just 17. I think Alabama gets gashed, it seems, a little bit more than Oklahoma does, particularly in the running game. Your point about Mateer is a really good one. He had a season-high 80 yards rushing against Tennessee. Now they've had another week off. How much will he run? I dug this up because it's not so much that Alabama gets consistently run on. It's the big runs. They're 101st in the country in allowing runs of 20 yards or longer and 113th in runs of 30 yards or longer. So can they handle the big play?
Has anyone found Jaden Ott, or is he just lost forever?
I'd forgotten until you said that. I mean, I'm being a little facetious. I'd forgotten he was with them.
Yeah, that's too bad.
It really is.
He was the best running back in the Pac-12 in that leagues last year.
Yeah.
No, it just hasn't.
2 years ago.
Hasn't worked. That's too bad.
Yeah, I'm going to say Alabama pulls it out. You keep living on the edge as the Tide has. Sooner or later, it's going to get you. But I think they'll barely pull it out with a lot of scares. I imagine Mateer makes some big plays, and it'll be a classic slugfest. I think 24 wins the game. Okay. I think if somebody gets to 24, I think they'll win the game. Texas and Georgia in prime time. The one thing Texas hasn't proven in the SEC is that they can handle the dogs. Georgia was the more physical team, particularly in the regular season meeting last year. And then in the SEC championship games, last year, they made the tough-minded plays when they had to. Georgia doesn't rush the passer the way it has in the past. Texas hasn't been as efficient on offense over the course of the season, though there have been signs of life recently. Texas has won 4 in a row, the last 3 of them by 7 points or fewer. They've also allowed 30 points in back-to-back games. I feel like the Dogs are ascending a little bit here. Who do you like in that game Saturday night?
See, I think this will be a low-scoring Tar Pit game, more so than the Oklahoma-Alabama game. Texas is this sort of like fascinating, wildly flawed, but still compelling, playoff contender. They have the number 2 rush defense in the country. They are really, really good up front. Georgia can run the ball well. They're not elite at it, but they can run the ball well. They're in the top 25. This is going to be conservative. This is going to be ball control. I don't see, Sark going in and letting Arch let it rip, right? So I think this just comes down to one of those games that Georgia has shown consistently they know how to win. And I think they do win, but I think this is like a 17-13 Teeth Nasher kind of game.
I think you'll get a little bit more. I think the games will be very similar. The game will be very similar to what we saw in the SEC championship game, which I think was decided in the 20s. That's the type of game I expect. Texas is in survival mode. They're kind of desperate. I do think if Texas can find a way to split these 2 games, absent any other loss, but split the 2 games against Georgia and Texas A&M, that they will have a really good case, assuming they play well and pass the football judgment. They'll have a really good case as a 3-loss at large team, maybe to sneak into the field. So I don't think it's an absolute playoff or bust game for Texas, though they will definitely be in harm's way and on the wrong side of the bubble at the moment, in all likelihood, if they don't win. Haven't seen enough from them to think they can go into Athens and win. And I also think Georgia's getting better. I think Georgia's doing what teams in this playoff era, need to do, and that's like working things out over the course of the season and starting to play your best the later it goes. I don't think Georgia has reached its best yet, but you start to see things that are sort of trending in that direction. They run the ball when they need to put games away. The defense is getting clutch stops. Stockton's making a few more plays here and there down the field instead of it just being the screen game. So I'm going Georgia at home. I can't see Georgia losing 2 primetime games between the hedges in the same season with how much they have riding on this too. They're in great spot right now, but they still have Georgia Tech. And, Tech's formidable as the Dogs found out last year. I'll go with Georgia to win that game. Really important game in the American. USF made its way into the college football playoff rankings into the top 25. They've got Navy. Navy with only 1 loss. The Mids hoping to be able to get into that American championship game and maybe win their way into the playoff. Game is in Annapolis. Who do you like?
Well, the key thing here is going to be the health of Blake Horvath. He obviously was a bit of a surprise scratch at Notre Dame on Saturday. When I broke that story, it was made clear to me he had a really good chance of playing this week. We will see if that manifests itself. That would be something I'll be tracking closely this week. Brian Newberry's done an unbelievable job at Navy, and they have done a good job winning all of the games in the margins. When they have stepped up class, they've pretty consistently fallen behind. And I do feel like with, I won't say with what South Florida spent on their roster because Alex Golish gets offended by that. What I will say is that they are stepping up at a class of talent. It'll be, can Navy drag him in the mud? I mean, contrast to Styles is like so obvious, right? But I do think South Florida just has a little bit too much for Navy to overcome.
Why does he get offended when you say
so
that?
I didn't say it. Jeff Traylor intimated it. And there was a clip that went around the interwebs, Reese, where Alex was none too pleased at that intimation.
I think that is I think that's a compliment. People say it about, I think it's evolved into it, especially for a place like South Florida. People say it about Texas Tech. I mean, to me, it's like we've invested and invested wisely. Because if you think you can just go out, and look, it'll help if you go and spend more than everybody else. But if you think you can just go out and offer willy-nilly huge contracts and not have to put the team together, not have to vet the guys that you're paying, and you don't feel like they're going to fit in your style, then you're just throwing good money after bad. So to me, if you are successful after having spent on your roster, that's a compliment. You're allowed to do it now. It's not like the old days where you're saying, well, they have those guys because they had a bigger brown paper bag full of money than everybody else. That they,
McDonald's bag.
They hid down underneath an overpass or hid down at the tractor store and, went down and picked it up. Or, like the old story from the guy would sell a tractor for cash and then there's no trail and then you give the cash to the guy. That's not what we're doing anymore. We're running this like a business because it is, and it's a compliment. You invested wisely. You put money into the market, and you're getting a return on investment. You're getting your dividend. Tell me about your deep cut, the Gamecocks of Jacksonville State, just a few miles, sort of down I-20 away from Kennesaw State.
Have you ever been to a game at Jacksonville State?
You know what? I have not.
Wow. I just thought with your Alabama ties that
I
at
know,
some
I have
point
not.
You would have.
I've never even been there. It's a different part of the state.
I know.
I've been not far from it, driving between Birmingham and Atlanta, but I've never been to Jacksonville State.
All right. So we have, this is a deep cut now. 8 o'clock ESPNU Saturday night, undefeated in Conference USA, Kennesaw State, undefeated in Conference USA, Jacksonville State. 2 first-year coaches, Jerry Mack at Kennesaw, who came via the NFL. He was at Tennessee, and he had been a head coach at FCS. He's had an interesting path. He's done a great job there. They're 7-2. They played Indiana better than half the Big Ten has. And then Jacksonville State, old friend Charles Kelly, Reese. I'm sure you've run across him in your.
Oh yeah, I know Charles well.
In your time there. He's an old hand. He's done a great job there. They're 6-3, 5-0 in Conference USA. Do you know who the OC is at Jacksonville State, Reese? Because I know you know him.
I can't. I remember reading this. I can't remember it.
It is.
Oh, is it? Is it Trickett? Is it Clint Trickett?
Clint Trickett and Rick Trickett, and they are.
Yeah, and Rick's the O-line coach there, right?
Yes, and they
because. Yeah, there's that Florida State connection from when Charles was at Florida State.
Yeah, and they are 4th in the nation in rushing behind the father-son tandem of the Tricketts. So I will say the Tricketts roll, and Jacksonville State figures out a way to win at Jacksonville State on Saturday night.
And this is likely the first of 2 meetings.
Yes.
The high likelihood is they'll play again in the conference championship game. Yeah. I first met Charles Kelly when he was an assistant to Wayne Trawick at Central Phoenix City High School.
Wow.
When I was working local. I mean, so I've known Charles for
a long time.
A number of years. And I'm very happy he's getting a chance as head coach. Very happy for his success. Not that I'm not for Kennesaw State. What a great turnaround for them. Also, the Owls, a growing program and a growing university.
There's players near Kennesaw now. Like, there's players around there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And a great bounce back place too. Things don't work at Georgia. Good. Things don't work at Tech. Good. Auburn, good.
Yeah.
You can find your way to Kennesaw State.
Or you're from Atlanta, you go to, fill in the blank, pop back.
Yeah, wherever. Yeah. I would just use
NC
those because
State.
they're proximity.
You go to NC State, doesn't work out, pop right back.
Yeah, come on back to Kennesaw. Go to Oregon, come back to Kennesaw. Great bounce back opportunities there.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Jack State also in this one, and then we'll see when we meet again. I'll take Jack State.
Okay, that is good. That'll be. I was going to say that'll be up in my $4.
Really?
Oh yeah, on Saturday night on the app. Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of light, right?
Yeah,
the night
8
games,
o'clock, 2 undefeated Conference USA. I'm absolutely putting my $4.